So let's talk about agents. Having an agent is a huge deal for many actors. It's kind of this special thing that eludes a lot of them. And they're like, oh my gosh, if I could get an agent, then I can get into those special casting calls for the big professional film and television productions. And that's true. An agent has access to Breakdown Services, which is a company that posts special breakdowns for much higher level productions generally than, like regular websites like Actors Access or Casting Networks or whatever. You can get professional projects through there, but if you get an agent who signs you, they submit you to the much higher level stuff, higher pay, generally speaking, union projects and all of that. So the question is, how do you get an agent and how do you know when you're actually ready for one? The first thing that I want you to know is that an agent is different from a manager in the general sense that legally an agent should be licensed and they have the ability to sign contracts on behalf and find you employment opportunities. Now, lots of talent managers do this as well, but they don't usually have a license specifically for it, whereas an agent is specifically licensed by the state to actually be able to find you employment opportunities. And what that means is an agent can also sign and negotiate contracts for you. Now, most agents tend to work with anywhere from 100 to like upwards of 300, sometimes even 400 actors. They usually have a lot of actors on their roster, and their primary job consists of finding the actors work, whereas a manager typically works with maybe only like 20 to 30, sometimes up to 50 actors, and their job is more to work like closely with you and kind of help you with your career, figuring out your brand, putting you in touch with people that can help you. Many managers will still submit you, but an agent's job is purely like the submission and the contract negotiation and all of that stuff, just kind of getting you the jobs. Whereas a manager's like, I'm going to help you grow in your career and, more of like a one-on-one relationship. So the question is, how do you know when you're actually ready for an agent? And there's a couple of key indicators. Number one is you can actually book work on your own without an agent. So don't think of an agent as sort of like a magic bullet. Like if you sign with an agent, suddenly you're going to start booking all kinds of stuff. The truth is you need to actually do your own put your own work in. An agent generally only makes 10 to 20%. And, you should expect them to only do 10 to 20% of the work. So you need to make sure that your acting is really on point. I have another video where I talk about how to know if your acting is good enough. But once your acting is really on point, you're able to book roles without an agent, meaning you know how to submit yourself, you know how to audition well, and you're actually building up a reel of some footage and stuff. At that point, now you're starting to kind of get your career together, and so you're ready to actually go out and find someone who can start working for you to get you consistent jobs. Some agents really do care about how long your resume is, others don't, and will sign people right out of college. So, how much stuff is on your resume is a little bit less of an indicator for whether you're ready to sign with an agent than your ability to actually book and get work and your skill level. Now, commissions, most agents should charge around 10%. Some charge 12 to 15%. Those numbers are fine, but you'll also run into some agents who charge 20 to 30%. And in my opinion, that's just too much. Unless they're working really hard for you and they're really like advising you and working really close, they should not be getting 20%. The truth is you can actually book work on your own without an agent. We've talked about this in plenty of other videos and some of my other materials and stuff, like how to actually self-submit to those major film projects without an agent who gets access to the breakdowns. So you can actually get access to those big projects without an agent. And that's why I say, be very careful. If you're working with agents who start charging really high percentages and fees, definitely don't sign with an agent who claims to be an agent, but they charge you an upfront fee, like, oh, $200 or $500 and I'll represent you, because that's usually a scam. And also be careful of agents who want to take a commission on jobs that they don't book for you. It's a little bit more common for a manager, a talent manager, to take commission on jobs that you find yourself, because the talent manager is kind of involved with like helping you grow your career. They're having phone calls with you, or they should be, having phone calls with you, connecting you to coaches and getting you discounts on things. They should have connections to be able to get you some cool stuff and really like advise you on your career. And that's why in general, a manager kind of looks at any job that you book as something that was due to their help. So you'll usually pay commission to managers on all different projects, even the ones that they don't submit you for. But if an agent is trying to do that and saying like, oh, you have to give me your 10% because you booked that other project that I didn't submit you for, that generally is a no-no. So be really careful with that. And when you're signing, like, usually there's a contract. If you're going to sign exclusively, you want to read your contract and be really careful, because sometimes some of that stuff is in there. And if you signed it, then you're liable and you have to pay them the money. Now, there's two different types of agents in general that you're going to be interested in as an actor. There's some other ones that like voiceover and theater and all of that stuff, but I just want to focus right now on two main ones, which is commercial and legit. If you've never heard the term legit, that basically means like, it's not like it's more legitimate than a commercial is, but it's like legit film and television work. So like, like movies and primetime television shows, stuff like that, like serious media stuff for entertainment, versus a commercial where it's kind of like, you're acting in some like short thing to sell a product and it's fun and a quick project. The key difference between a commercial agent and a legit agent, some do both, but you just want to keep in mind that in general, a commercial agent is going to be vastly easier to sign with than a legit agent, because there's vastly more commercial shooting at any point, and commercials are almost always looking for new talent. Whereas, like films and television and stuff, they want to bring in people who are names and who have a following already. Commercials are about selling the product, so they don't necessarily want the product to be stolen by people just like looking at the actor and the acting in it, So anyway, just keep that in mind. You can get a commercial agent fairly easily. You could search online on Google for commercial agents and start submitting, and you'll probably find someone, as long as you are friendly and fun and all of that. I actually have a really cool in-depth guide on my site called the Commercial Auditions, the Ultimate Guide to Finding and Booking Them, and it goes really in depth if you want to learn more about how to book commercial work. But for a legit agent, they're definitely a bit more challenging to sign with, because they're looking for actors who really know their stuff. Now, when you sign with an agent, you can either sign or you can do what's called freelancing. Freelancing is kind of where you don't really have a contract that you guys sign. It's more like you're taking each other for a test run, and the agent will submit you on projects to see whether you're able to book them, what kind of feedback they get from the casting directors and stuff, and they just determine are we a good fit? And you can also see are you a good fit with the agent? Are they sending you on things you want to be in? Are they easy to work with? Are they nice? So I usually, if it's possible, I usually recommend freelancing first. And if you have a good experience, you can be fairly certain that once you sign with them, as long as they're not crazy and something changes drastically, but once you sign with them, usually most contracts go for 18 months or 2 years, so freelance with them first, try them out, because once you sign with them, then it's usually an exclusive arrangement where you're not allowed to sign with any other agents. And obviously, if you sign for a long term with someone that you don't like, or someone who's going to be a terrible agent to work with, you're kind of stuck, and that's a pain. Now, in terms of signing with really large agencies, well-known ones, and signing with really small, independent, newer agencies, the really well-known, high up there agencies, they're going to be representing famous celebrity actors and stuff. So obviously they have a much higher standard for who they work with, and many of them will only take someone on if they already have a large following or they've been in a lot of big productions, so it makes it easier for them to sell them. So I usually recommend starting by looking for a smaller agency, working with them for a year or two, and then from there, you should have some better credits. Then you can look for a higher level agency, like kind of a mid-tier agency, work with them for another year or two and continue, and once you build up those credits, then you go for the highest stuff. But you can't just expect to get signed like at random from a really high agency. That's like, unless you get extremely lucky, that's probably unlikely to happen. When it comes to actually getting signed by an agent, the best ways to go about doing it, I mean, there's two primary ways. One is by you actually self-submitting to their agency. You can like go onto websites and submit your headshot and resume and a cover letter. Or if they discover you like at a showcase or something like that and they want to meet with you. Regardless of how you actually sign with them, you typically will go through two parts, which is an audition and also an interview. The interview, they're going to ask you questions, learn more about you, find out what your goals are and whether they would be a good fit for you. And then the audition is, an audition so that they can see how you perform. So I actually, if you're interested, have a super in-depth course called Land an Agent, and it talks about the entire process, how to target agencies, how to actually self-submit to them with cover letter examples and stuff. It goes really, really deep, even on like how to manage an agent once you find one, how to do well in the interview and all of that stuff. So if you're interested in that course, totally check it out. But in general, an agent is not someone that you want to sign with right away. You want to gain some experience in your acting career first to learn how the process works. I know a lot of actors who've actually signed with agents and they let the agent do all of the submissions and then they never knew how that whole process worked. And a couple of years later, I mean, they weren't really booking too many things because they didn't really create their own relationships with casting directors. They were just going through their agent. But B, once the agent eventually stopped working with them, since they weren't booking so much, they had no idea what to do. They didn't have many credits, and they had kind of gotten lucky with the agent finding them, so they didn't even know how to get another agent. And I don't want that to be you. I want you to make sure that you're, knowledgeable. And it would be like me as a headshot photographer pretending like, oh, I never have taken a headshot before, so let me just go find a random photographer and then start trying to sell headshots. But like, how would I even know if the headshot photographer is doing a good job if I've never shot them myself? Or how would I know that they're not like screwing me over, if I have a web designer or something and because I've never designed my own website, how do I know if what they are doing doesn't just take them like 2 seconds, but they're charging me like $500 for it? So you want to make sure that you have an understanding first of how to market yourself, how to find jobs, how to network with casting directors before you sign with an agent. The agent is going to kind of take what you're doing and exponentially increase it. But if you aren't doing anything at all already, there's nothing to exponentially increase. So just keep that in mind. But you'll definitely want to sign with an agent as you move forward in your acting career because they're going to get you access to all those really special high-end breakdowns.